Good afternoon, I'm Shawn Yao, and this is One News Now. The Philippine Embassy in the United States is now verifying if there were indeed Filipinos at the Capitol siege. The violent event has resulted in at least 4 fatalities, while 50 other protesters were arrested. Marian Enriquez with the report.
Hundreds of supporters of U.S. President Donald Trump stormed the U.S. Capitol on Wednesday evening, U.S. time. They attempted to stop Congress from certifying the victory of President-elect Joe Biden. What began as a raucous rally against the defeat of the incumbent president boiled over into a siege. Rioters were seen tearing down metal barricades and breaking windows to push their way inside the building. 4 fatalities have been confirmed, including an unidentified woman who was shot by a police officer. Over 50 protesters, meanwhile, have been arrested due to various charges, such as carrying of unlicensed firearms.
But when the people that say back the blue and support our military, these are the people that they're tear gassing this afternoon.
The violence forced lawmakers from both House of Representatives and Senate to suspend their session.
Today, a shameful assault was made on our democracy. It cannot, however, deter us from our responsibility to validate the election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
Biden has denounced the Capitol siege, calling it an unprecedented assault on the Citadel of Liberty.
It's not protest, it's insurrection. The world's watching. Like so many other Americans, I am genuinely shocked and saddened.
Trump, for his part, implored his supporters to go home, but went on to insist that he had won the election.
This was a fraudulent election, but we can't play into the hands of these people. We have to have peace. So go home.
It took 3 hours for authorities to clear the Capitol and declare the situation under control. Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez, says this is a first in the country's history.
So everyone here is quite stunned by something like this to happen, especially in the Capitol, where it's supposed to be one of the most secure places here in Washington, D.C.
According to Romualdez, they are still verifying if there were Filipinos present during the riot.
Just reports that we received that there were some Asian Americans, some of them were Filipinos. We don't know how many were there, but we're still verifying it just for our information. But we all know that there are supporters of the Republican Party and President Trump, mostly from the Midwest, Filipino Americans.
The embassy has previously estimated that 38 to 40% of Filipino Americans residing in the U.S. support Trump. For News 5, Marian Enriquez, we are One News.
Let's talk about that unprecedented siege at the U.S. Capitol from the point of view of a Filipino-American researcher. Joining us live is Ms. Noel Malvar. She is a senior researcher at policy research firm More in Common. Hi, Noel. So why do you think a number of PhilAms, like a staggering number, some peg it at around the Philippine embassy there, has it at around 40%. Why do PhilAms support Trump? What is it?
Hi. Well, you can look at it from different angles, right? Despite Trump's harsh immigration policies, Filipino Americans are pro-legal immigration, so that's the key word, legal. They are also anti-abortion. A lot of them come from religious or Catholic backgrounds, and the values of the Republican Party are values that they see themselves aligned with. And just conservative values in general of community, of family, are emphasized in the Republican Party, and I think Filipinos relate to that a lot.
All right, so based on today's event, things have moved forward. We've heard President Trump calling off his supporters as well. How do you think, or how long do you think Trump will insist that this election was rigged? Should we expect more of these violent expressions from his supporters, or should we look at maybe at a change of tactic?
I think Trump will always insist the elections are stolen. Like, it could be January 2025, and he'll still be singing the same tune. But I think he's all out of options. I mean, just 15 minutes ago, the Congress certified the electoral count, so it can't get more official. Biden will be the next president of the United States. But personally, I don't think Trump will ever accept it or ever publicly admit that he lost. And the question is whether Republicans or people in his party, who we don't even know if we can call them Republicans now, will finally accept that and move on.
All right. What happens now among Filipino Americans in the United States, specifically specifically those that are near the capital or near Washington? Are a lot of them blue? A lot of them red? What can you tell us about the profile of PhilAms in and around that area right now, which is of course the center of power of the U.S.?
I think, well, like the clip just said, right, we have to verify how many Filipino Americans or Asian Americans were in the protest or took part in the protest. I think a chunk or a significant number of Filipinos will always be conservative in value and part of the Republican Party. It's a question of whether they will support President Trump or now former President Trump after he's out of the office. And there's nothing, I mean, they can be in any party they want. Like, that's democracy and that's America. But they have to also, it doesn't matter what party you're in, you have to follow the rule of law. You have to participate in the Constitution and go within the rules that we all agreed to. And so, yeah, so hopefully when they verify the numbers, hopefully we'll see that it was a very small or a few Filipinos that stormed the Capitol, because it just doesn't seem very Filipino or very American to do that.
Okay, one last question. Do you have any idea how they plan to do that? How do they plan to, take some sort of attendance sheet of those present at the protests? I mean, a lot of people are masked. It's winter.
Yeah.
A lot of people are
Yeah.
covered up. How do you have any idea how the U.S. plans to do that?
I mean, there were a lot of images, and even the protesters or the mob or whatever terminology you use, they used cameras on themselves. They're not exactly ashamed of what they were doing. They were posting, they were taking selfies. I think there has to be a massive investigation why the security was breached. And included in that investigation is actually identifying who these people are. And the government has the resources. It's important enough. It's crucial that we know everyone and that they follow the rule of law. And if they need to be punished, then that they are punished.
All right, this is still clearly a developing story. Thank you so much for your time, Noel Malvar, senior researcher at policy research firm More in Common. We'll have more stories after this quick break. Stay with us. This is still One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. Contact tracing is currently underway as health officials get more information on the UK variant case in Hong Kong who had traveled to the Philippines. Greg Gregorio joins us live from Mandaluyong City for the details. Hi, Greg. We already know it is a Filipina domestic helper that is residing in Hong Kong. We already know her flight numbers and her dates. What is the local government doing about that? I'm talking, of course, about the DOH.
The health department confirmed that one passenger who had travel history in the Philippines and tested positive for the UK variant in Hong Kong is a Filipino domestic helper. Based on information from Hong Kong authorities and Centers for Health Development in the Philippines, the 30-year-old worker came from Cagayan Valley region last December 17. She underwent quarantine in Metro Manila on December 18 and took her RT-PCR test the next day. After getting a negative result, she was able to board flight PR300 bound for Hong Kong on December 22. The OFW had another RT-PCR test on January 2 in Hong Kong, wherein she tested positive for COVID-19 as reported on January 4. The day after that, she also turned out positive for the more infectious B117 variant. The DOH said that the patient is under isolation and in a stable condition. Contact tracing is now underway for passengers who boarded the same flight. Health officials in Cagayan Valley and NCR have also started tracing the Pinay's close contacts. They will undergo strict quarantine and RT-PCR tests. Positive samples will undergo gene sequencing to determine if they are also positive for the UK variant. During an interview with One Assist the Chiefs, the Okta research team said the more infectious variant might have already arrived in the Philippines. Despite this, NTF Deputy Chief Implementer Vince Dizon has assured the public that coordination and contact tracing are in place. Here's what they have to say.
Immediately, nag-trace na ang ating DOH sa tulong ng ating one-stop shop at ng OWA. Lahat ng mga kasama o nakahalubilo nitong nagpositibong ito ay tine-trace na ngayon.
The way you bring this together is you say it is likely now that the variant is in the Philippines, but it is also likely that it's still very rare. If she was here for 2 days, then it's possible she got it from someone else from where she came from. So we need more information.
Sean, the health department earlier said that the UK variant is still not present here in the country based on the most recent genome sequencing conducted by the UP Genome Center. And Dr. Edsel Salvania of the DOH Technical Advisory Group also mentioned that there is a possibility that the Filipina got infected in Hong Kong, noting that she had a negative RT-PCR result prior to her flight and she only tested positive for the virus more than a week after her arrival. Sean?
Right, so is it more likely then, Greg, that she contracted it in Hong Kong and not here in the Philippines? Is that what experts are saying?
Sean, what the experts are saying is that this question is still unanswered as of the moment because they have to know every details that is involving this UK variant case involving a Filipina. Sean?
All right, another developing story to watch out for. Thanks so much for that update. Greg Gregorio of News 5 joining us live from Mandaluyong City. The government's travel restriction list is getting longer and longer, and airlines are preparing for the worst. More countries are reporting cases of the COVID-19 variant that was first detected in the United Kingdom. To tell us more, Gerard de la Peña joins us live, this time from the NAIA Terminal 2. Hi, Gerard. What are the additional countries in this long list of countries with a travel ban?
Well, Sean, more passengers are expected to defer or postpone their travel plans with the inclusion of more countries and territories in the country's travel ban list. Well, some of these countries included in the list are Portugal, India, Finland, Norway, Jordan, and Brazil, which have reported cases of the more infectious COVID-19 variant. China will likely be added to the list according to Malacanang. Airlines have reported at least 60% drop in passenger volume following the travel ban on UK, US, and Canada, among other countries. Those coming from these countries, but who will have layovers in regions such as the Middle East, will still have to undergo a 14-day quarantine upon arrival, regardless of their RT-PCR test results. Airline operators say they are preparing for the worst. They expect travel restrictions to be extended beyond January 15 with the possible addition of more countries. The government has put a 2,000 cap for arriving passengers to ensure availability of quarantine facilities, which has also resulted in limited flights. Sean, airline operators are now looking at the proposal from the International Air Travel Association, or IATA, regarding the requiring passengers to come up to bring their own health passports. These passports or IDs will contain information about the vaccinations that they already have. But airlines are aware that this will take some time to roll out, as various countries are still in the process of launching their respective mass vaccination programs. Sean.
All right, thanks for that update, Gerard de la Peña, reporting to us live from the NAIA Terminal 2. In other news, the Metro Manila Police Office has formed a special task force that will focus on the case of Christine Becerra. NCRPO Chief Vicente Danao says the group will continue to gather more evidence that should shed light on the death of the flight attendant. Danao adds that they will look into possible administrative lapses of officials and investigators who filed a case prematurely. The Makati Prosecutor's Office has referred the controversial case back to the police because of insufficient evidence. With this, 3 persons of interest have already been released from detention while authorities continue their investigation. Some lawyers of those involved have expressed their clients' intent to cooperate and attend to any legal proceedings to be required by the courts.
I would safely say that there is no existing case. Okay? Meron tayong kaso dyan, kaya lang kulang. So, yung appreciation po ng ating fiscal ay hindi po ganun kataas. No? So, ibig sabihin, may kakulangan nga, kaya nga na RFI. Okay? Now, yung sinasabing surrender o at large o mga ganon, sa ngayon, masasabi ko po, walang kaso itong mga taon to.
For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.